I got most of it as long as this room stayed quiet. As soon as the background kicked in.
Yeah. No, and I was saying my voice, unfortunately, is the same timbre as room tone. So.
White noise on my app.
For whatever reason, my voice is at that. So what can I tell you about Dick?
What can you tell us about cinnamon?
Everything.
And
cinnamon.
Yeah, you'll have to ask SJ.
Joke? Okay.
Yeah,
she's got a lot of in-jokes.
Yeah,
she comes with a lot of in-jokes.
So what brought you? What brought you into Dig? What was the thing that interested you the most about it?
Well, there's a whole series of things. First of all, it was a relationship that was an arranged. And we met through my agent, and my agent and Gideon's agent. If I'm repeating this, and we share an agent who was very instrumental in bringing over shows from Israel, In Treatment and Homeland, and so Gideon had already begun to think about doing a show set in Jerusalem, set in in an archaeological setting and a murder mystery, and so he had that much of a couple of pages of outline, and so when I met, and he was looking to partner up, I was actually looking to partner up. I've been involved in doing my own shows for a long time, and to be really honest, it was a sideline thing. To be honest, it was because we were doing it on spec. It was not developed. It was our own dime, and so there was no pressure on it, and so it didn't have to meet a lot of criteria for me. I was like, I like the guy, I like Gideon instantly. I loved the idea for all kinds of reasons. I've always been a fan of 70s psychological paranoid thrillers like 3 Days of a Condor, Parallax View, and those kind of things about the little guy, the lowly little character who scratches the surface of something really big and then finds himself embroiled in something he can't get himself out of. And so it had that hallmark. It had the element of shooting in a foreign country, in a foreign place. I had made a career out of shooting shows that took place in other worlds, other places, other cities, other locations, and never left a 35-mile radius of my office. And while that's really exciting to create Paris on Pico Boulevard, it's also really challenging. And so the thought that this had already sort of been prearranged, that if this was going to happen, it was going to happen in Israel with the help of the city of Jerusalem and Israel itself. And so I was really fascinated with that idea of doing a show set in another place. And then the subject matter was infinitely fascinating to me. It's a world, I'm a history buff. I was a religious studies major in college, so I have an interest in sort of religions and ancient, and some ancient biblical ideas and prophecies and all of that. And so it connected on all those levels.
What do you think? What do you think is gonna be the biggest hook for people who watch it, without giving too much away?
I think a ton of things are the hook. I think the location, the exotic nature of it. When you watch the clip, you realize immediately this was not a show that was shot in the backlots of Hollywood. It just smells and feels like an authentic location and an authentic place, and that I think is a big draw. I think the cast is a very big draw. I think the subject matter, if all you knew about it was that it was a murder mystery set in that location, is enough. But then you add the layer of history and the idea of an almost Googleable, if that's a word, quality of the show. Yes, it really does have a sense of, if the second you scratch the surface of what it's about, you realize there's an infinite number of websites and blogs dedicated to talking about a lot of these things. If you saw the little trailer or the clips that we showed, there's this breastplate that it's one of the MacGuffins. It's one of the MacGuffins in the show. All you have to do is Google that, and Jerusalem and prophecy or whatever, and you'll come up with a bazillion things. Is it real? Does it exist? Where is it? Is it really? Is it still out there? If so, who has it? And well, how will it be used? I mean, there's a million things. So it connects on all kinds of levels. So for an audience that loves a mystery that they can't quite figure out, I think that's a fun one. It also has those elements that Heroes had and Touch had, like my last two shows, where you take disparate stories and wonder how they're going to converge. And that part is always, it's always fun.
There we go.
Did you have, because this show delves so much into conspiracies and there's a lot of MacGuffins and a lot of, I'm assuming, red herrings. And, how far did you plan the season before you actually sat down and wrote the pilot, or did you just go from take it and run?
I'm not actually sure how far we planned this. I mean, we knew when we went to, we went on a location trip together, a research trip, and when we were in Jerusalem, we were in the van driving from one location to the other when we finally came up with, oh, it isn't about this, it's actually about this. And we came up with probably the biggest twist in it was when we were there. So by the time we started a writer's room, which we didn't start until we set up the project because we wrote it on spec.
Right.
By the time we started the writer's room, we were able to pitch out to the writers pretty much, what the big giant signposts were. We had the whole thing pretty worked out, and again, because it has a beginning, a middle, and end, it doesn't have to be an open-ended show.
Right.
We knew where it was going, and it's quite a luxury, and we actually wrote a tremendous amount of it before we even rolled camera, which was also unheard of.
Right.
We had the luxury of having many scripts in the can by the time we, which is a rare. I mean, you can't believe how, and it's not just a luxury, but it's a necessity when you're, because we had to take advantage of some block shooting and stuff. And now, because of our current situation, it's really handy.
Right.
So.
Looking back on and writing that and having it on spec and things like that, going to the casting process, at what point do you think, oh, Jason Isaacs, this is his voice? Like, looking back, do you think I wrote this with him in mind?
This is something that may sound like it's a made-up story. Gideon and I, when we were writing the script, we were not even done with the first draft. We went to an event. It was at our mutual agent's house. We went to an event at his house, a fundraiser party, and Jason was there. And we stood in the kitchen and eating, free food, and the whole time Gideon and I were like kicked. And we walked out of there and said, he's perfect. He unfortunately was on a show at the time, and as far as we knew, the show was going to be a big giant hit, and he was going to go for 10 years and everything. But I can tell you honestly with a straight face that he was our first choice from the very beginning, which rarely happens. And we did search out other. I mean, we had some other dance partners because of his hadn't come together yet. And then when it came together, it was like, well, of course, it was the first guy. I mean, it was one of those great.
Right.
Thanks.
Really.
Thank you.